Chris Duffin at the Kabuki Strength Lab. I've got a couple special guests today. We've got Reese Hoffa, 3-time Olympian, and his head trainer, Corey Davis. So, if you're not, I know I've got a lot of like powerlifting audience and strength training audience that may not have the background of who Reese is, but I'm really excited to have you here. So, Reese has been top 10 for, was it 13 years you said?
10 years in a row. Top 10, 13 years in a row. You're right.
Yep.
Sorry.
And then top 3 for 10 years in a row in the world. Yeah. 3-time Olympian. So some really pretty damn good shot putting. So some great throwing background. And one of the things that interests me, because you've been at the sport a long time.
Yep.
And I'm at the same case. I've been in my sport for a long time, and sometimes you just get to this point where you're kind of burned out. You feel that you're doing it because you have to do it. And where are you at in your kind of life cycle as far as the training, the competing, and how do you deal with that?
Well, right now, Chris, I am at the end of my life cycle when it comes to competition. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've been throwing a shot since my junior year in high school, and have been working towards becoming an Olympian, I guess, and then reaching that goal and doing it 3 times, and have one more chance, 2016, hopefully be a 4-time Olympian. That would be really awesome. But I'm near the end of it. I've had a lot of fun doing it. So.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, over the last few years, you've kind of spiced up your training, like started doing things a little bit differently, because you've been at it, you've been at a high level for a long time, and you've got some, young up-and-coming athletes, that are trying to chase you down, right? And
I do.
So how do you, how have you managed it? How have you stayed, current and, consistent with your performance?
Well, I think the biggest part about being able to have a long career is keeping things fresh, and having people like Corey Davis and Olympian Trading. Being a part of that is huge. For a long time, I've been doing the same training for 13 years, and this is back in 2012, and I was just looking for something different. I was getting kind of burnt out. I was getting run down. I hated doing the workouts, and it became a job. And I needed something to kind of engage my mind and keep me fresh and keep me going. And bringing in Corey, he was just getting done with college, and kind of a philosophy. I didn't want to just go to some guy that has this idea of training from 20 years ago. I wanted something fresh and new that no one's ever thought of. I want people thinking outside the box instead of just keep doing the same old thing. And that's what Corey brought to it. And it was just kind of a concept of coming into core stability when it comes to training. And I never thought of it that way. I go in there and do a bench squat, do cleans, try to deadlift a little bit, and sometimes you just got to do something different.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. I mean, anybody who watches my stuff knows over and over. I mean, it's but what we do is bench squat and deadlift.
Yeah.
But when you actually apply this to like that core stability to real athletic endeavors, it becomes you talked about it earlier. We were talking about it doesn't really matter how much you squat.
Yes.
But your ability to have that control and stability, and be able to deliver that power through your shoulder to throw is really important, right?
And I think that's something I've kind of discovered over the years is when it comes to just throwing. Like I've done a 600-pound squat, I've benched over 500 pounds, and when I've done those, it hasn't always transferred into big distances. I threw 73 feet 7 inches, and I probably benched 435 during that cycle.
Right.
And during my training, it isn't going out there saying, okay, I need to bench 500 this year. It's just whatever I get to during that phase, that's what I have. Sometimes we'll go 485 for a triple. Sometimes it's 510 for a double. It's everything is good. It's just whatever I get to is what I'm going to do.
Well, it's so much a system. It is, and that's where people gotta understand the differentiation. And you can probably talk to that a little bit, Corey.
Yeah. So the big thing for Reese is benching 500 pounds is only useful in the shot if 500 pounds of bench pressing force can actually get applied through his shoulder into the throw.
Yeah.
And
from the ground.
Yeah. Right. And that's the really hard thing is people think of, oh, the shot put, it's, you know, big, strong guy just hurls a ball. But in reality, like, if you watch Reese, you know, spin around the ring, it is a very, like, almost like ballet type movement. Like, it is a very difficult coordination. And so it's about, he starts facing off the other direction and spins around, you know, applying force through the ground, up through his legs, up through his, you know, his abs and his like obliques, you know, into his shoulder to then release that ball. And if there's any point throughout that motion that he is off balance or there's any sort of like energy leak there, it's all dissipated. And it doesn't matter that he squats 600 pounds and benches 500 pounds. He's exerting, you know, the same force that I can.
Because, yeah, if you're benching 600 pounds and you're just standing there and expecting to throw that with your pec and shoulder.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I'm not a throw expert, but actually in dynamic neuromuscular stabilization training, we cover a lot of throwing type of.
Exactly.
I've actually reviewed a lot of footage of shot putters, and you can watch and see those energy leaks when you have that. It's like, oh, he opened up there, or the hips opened, and you know, like, you know, that oblique sling he lost, which is incredible for throwing. We talked recently about my video about the oblique sling throw bench press.
Absolutely.
And because that's why, you know, I watch the video if you haven't already.
Very good. But yeah, absolutely.
How are you getting that power into the shoulders, not just like how do you isolate out and press with the pec and the shoulders,
so,
that's not how you have shot put.
Yeah, when Reese came to me, it was like late 2011, like very early 2012, and at that point he was already a 2-time Olympian. You know, he already, you know, had benched 500 pounds for a double. He had already squatted 550 for a double. He had cleaned, you know, high 300s. He'd snatched, you know, low 300s or like close to 300 pounds. He was fast. He was strong. Like, he had all these things. So when I was looking at him, like, as an athlete, he was the first like shot putter that I'd worked with. But I was like, okay, him doing more of these things that he's already really good at isn't really the key. The real key for him is going to be how to exert force from those less than ideal positions. You know, and you work with it like bench, squat, deadlift, where you are in a more ideal position, and you still like preach to people about bracing and how to really execute those movements fully. You know, when you're on one leg, it is harder to brace. It is harder to generate that force. So the big thing for Reese was a lot of like, okay, I know you can squat a lot. I know you can do a med ball twist with a lot of weight and a lot of force. I need you to do more. At that point, he didn't do any like anti-rotation training. He didn't do any like anti-lateral flexion stuff. So Reese's training was a lot of like anti-movements, and then a lot of those anti-movements with, okay, we're doing an anti-movement, and I'm also going to have you do a row from that position. You know, you're in this tight position where you're off balance. Now generate force through your back. You know, kind of teaching him to turn on, you know, his extremities while also bracing and holding that tight position. So then as he's throwing, that 600 pound of squat coming in from the ground is actually being applied, and that force is being controlled.
You know, that's a great approach, because like you said, he's got the strength, the power, the speed.
Yeah.
But people don't realize how much they can lose via those energy leaks. Like, you know, a squat is a very simple exercise. I can teach somebody some bracing strategies to improve it, and within 15 minutes, a lot of times I can add like 10% to someone's squat. I can take them from 400 to 440 pounds in 10 to 15 minutes. And that's a simple movement. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of throwers are performing around like 60% of their actual capacity based on, you know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key to it is, you know, we weren't saying, hey, Reese, you don't need to squat anymore. Like, he needs to actually have something that he's getting a percentage of, you know? Like, we're not saying, like, hey, throw away the bench or anything like that. Like, we still do all those things. That's still the foundation of this training. But his accessory movements are a lot more specific to how do you, while in these kind of compromised positions, still generate force so that as you get to the actual release point, that is your strongest point. Like, you've recruited muscle kind of along every point along the chain, and now as you release the ball, that is your most powerful position, you know?
That's because I get a lot of people from other disciplines sometimes like questioning, well, like, Chris, that's interesting stuff that you've developed for powerlifting, and I'm like, I haven't developed it.
Yeah.
I put it, I pull from a lot of different disciplines, but it's a lot of stealing from a lot of places, but knowing what to steal and how to put it together.
Absolutely.
But it's fundamental methodology. I mean, you've been on the kabuki.ms site. This stuff, it transcends, all sport. This is basic loaded human movement and how you apply force. And so this is why, I mean, you guys are using some of the stuff. I've got pro baseball, pro football.
Yeah.
We got a lot of other disciplines kind of getting involved with it, but it comes down to application.
Yeah.
So that's where it's different, and that's where I'd like to, give promote the Hoffa Throws Academy. I mean, anybody that's out there that's looking to, improve their throwing, you need to check this out, because you guys are putting together this, this is how you. I mean, this is how you strength train for this. This is how you put it together.
If you're going to be a thrower, and goes to some of your products, the Duffalo bar. I mean, you shouldn't use a straight bar if you want to have a long career being a thrower. I made it work, but before that, I had tons of shoulder injuries, and I was getting hurt all the time because I am not a power lifter. I don't, generally you're not going to have someone that has a powerlifting background in your weight room. Why not get on a Duffalo bar, protect your shoulders? This is my investment if I'm going to be a thrower. And, so
Absolutely.
Why not do something like that? And, it's something we didn't even talk about early on, but even using it for a bench press, that larger range of motion when doing a bench, it's going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. So there is so much benefit in just
for sure,
just protecting yourself as an athlete that throws. Or even in core, you do it in baseball, you do it in football, quarterbacks, pitchers. You don't really need a straight bar.
But you were talking about what Reese does. So Reese does through the Hoffa Throws Academy does programming for throwers, like here are the specific drills and throws you need to execute. And then I help him out with the weightlifting side of it. So between the two of us, we kind of cover kind of a full spectrum. If you're a thrower, we can help you develop, as an athlete. And what he was talking about, I use a lot of your products.
Yeah, I was going to say, I fully, endorse what you guys are doing. So like I said, anybody that's in the throwing discipline, I'd be contacting these guys. If you follow my work,
please.
It's the same stuff, but applied specifically in that area. And you guys,
it.
I mean, you guys... You want to talk a little bit about the products that you use?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I followed you just because I'm a big fan of lifting. I think that, like for Reese, like we were talking about before, the basis of it is still having all of that strength. And so the people I look to are really strong people. I would rather get 90% of an 800-pound squat than 90% of a 400-pound squat.
Right.
So that's absolutely, like, you're the type of people that I look to for it. So when you came out with the Duffalo bar and the shoulder rock, those were both, really, really useful products for us. The first one we actually started messing around with was the shoulder rock, because Reese had some shoulder injuries, and actually being able to apply a little bit more weight.
Yeah, so you were talking about anti-rotation drills, right?
Yeah, there's, really, really functional for him, both as like a core stability exercise and as a shoulder rehab for us, and now prehab. It was phenomenal. And then we got hooked up with your Duffalo bar, and that was before you and I had any sort of relationship. The first email I ever sent to you was I was going to have Reese bench press with it some, and I was like, hey, Reese is my #1 client. I just want to make sure I don't screw this up. Like, is there anything I need to know, before I have him pop on it? But now that we've had him use the Duffalo bar, I started off, I wanted him to use the Duffalo bar because I'd read all this stuff about how it would improve, the shoulder position and kind of save shoulder health. And I was like, well, we'll get it for rehab purposes. Like, he doesn't want to be on a straight bar, and the safety squat bar feels
the safety
different.
squat bar is a different lift. Like a lot of people, I get that all the time. Well, I can just use the safety squat bar. You can.
Yeah,
it is a different lift.
Absolutely, it's not the same.
And you don't actually get full core stability because you lack the engagement of the lats as a stabilizer into the core.
Absolutely,
which is pretty critical from a throwing perspective as well. So,
So the Duffalo bar at that point I thought was just the answer for, hey, we need to have Reese squat a actual squatting motion, not a safety bar squat or a front squat or something like that. We want to do a legitimate back squat. So this will be a great product for us just for rehab, essentially. And then once his shoulder's feeling good, we'll go back to a straight bar. But then once we got it and it felt amazing, and it was the same motion, you know, the weights he was lifting were the same. There wasn't like a big in previous years it was 500 and now it's 400 because it was the same weights, everything.
Yeah, it's the same squat.
Everything was the same, and it made his shoulders feel better. We got to the end of that cycle and we're like, well, I guess your shoulder's feeling good, we can go back to a straight bar, but why would we?
Actually, you guys are on the ticket there, because it's like, if you're not competing in barbell sports, why would you be beating yourself up with a bar that's not purpose built for it? I mean, you were talking about how great it felt on your shoulders and positioning, and
the problem was with a straight bar, I am not very flexible in my upper body, so I'm pulling my arms all the way to the weight, and it's still not quite enough, and it's forcing my shoulders in an improper position, which kills my rotator cuffs, especially on my right side, which is the part I throw on. So, you're always the investment.
Yeah.
So, you're going to do tons of rehab, so I can't do as many squats. When the Duffin bar came out and we tried to use it, I was like, this is different. This feels so much better. It sets it back on. I feel like I can get a proper position. I'm on my hips. I'm not leaning forward. My knees, which is my knee, I can't tell you how, I started squatting with it and my knee health went through the roof. My knee stopped hurting. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why this is going on? But it's because it puts you in a better position. If you're in a more efficient position when doing the exercise, everything else it takes care of itself. You're going to be so much healthier.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it comes back to some of the things when I'm teaching core stability on stuff, somebody will have knee pain or hip pain or some of this other stuff, and we won't focus there at all. We focus on this, and a lot of times this stuff will go away.
Yeah.
And the Duffin bar actually allows you to get in those positions to be able to stabilize properly, because the straight bar will actually force you a little bit out of. You have to be pretty mobile to be able to get in proper position on that bar, and if you don't, then you're going to have issues.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we were actually talking about on the flight over here. Was, I started off using the Duffin bar just on Reese. And I was like, well, there's really no reason, all of our really good, high school and football, or high school and college, football players, they should be on it too. And I was like, oh, wait a second, why wouldn't we just put our regular general population people on it? And then I was like, I'm not a power lifter. I want to squat because I want to be strong, but I'm not going to a meet ever. Why would I ever squat on a straight bar? There's no purpose for me. So I think we kind of thought it's a shame that a lot of the people that follow you and know you're power lifters, and they actually do have to squat with a straight bar.
Yep.
The people that should be
need it
using
more
it, absolutely.
Yep.
The new strength guy UGA, I think should buy 10 of these. Just have one on every rack. Any athlete, and then really any general population person that cares about shoulder health.
Absolutely.
I thought that I benched poorly, and that was why my shoulders hurt. And it wasn't until I got the Duffin bar I was like, oh, now my shoulders feel great. Oh, that was the issue.
Yep.
That makes so much more sense now.
That's that's the real common thing, because people feel it while they're benching.
Yeah, absolutely.
But usually the aggravation is caused by that. But as you guys have known from the benching too, I mean, it gets you into that nice joint centration that you need for your throwing and all the other stuff.
Well, it helps.
And then you get a better training effect because you've got a longer range of motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this fall we used shoulder rock a ton. We used the Duffin bar for squatting, and then we started using the Duffin bar for benching too. And that's why I reached out to you. It was the squat. It was easier for me to understand the squat. How that positioning works. What are the different cues? And you wrote back real swiftly, hey, here are the little things you do, to make it kind of perfect for benching too. And it was awesome.
Good. I'm glad you guys
super
have
happy with it.
worked that stuff in. And, I don't know. I can't help. I mean, you sent me an email, and you're like, this is, the products, the approaches, this stuff has been a game changer for this prep cycle. And that makes me feel, that's not bragging, that's just that's why this is why I walked away from the career that I was doing and chasing this stuff, because I really think that I can help people be better and live better through strength.
It has paid off.
So,
I mean, we feel like we've gotten smarter the last couple of years with training.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish that we'd had this, 2011.
Oh, that would
the
be
first
great.
year, and then for you, 2008.
Yeah.
Before I was even on the map for you.
I wish I had it before I destroyed my body when I was younger.
I bet. For sure. Yeah.
So, but that's the way it rolls. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think this is a good point to wrap it up. Like I said, I'll throw out another promo for Hoffa Throws Academy.
Awesome.
You guys are doing the right stuff. And
appreciate it.
anybody that loves the stuff that we're doing with like our Kabuki.ms, our movement portal, the products that we're doing, everything is the same principles that you guys are employing. Like I said, just the application, and that's what changes. And
Awesome.
look these guys up. And looking forward to doing some more stuff with you guys while you're here.
That'll be great.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.